This is going to be the overview for Chapter 3. This chapter introduces this idea of pathways or trajectories that killers move along as they develop towards their crimes. This chapter, this first one, Chapter 3, is going to be a short one as it just sort of introduces and gets us going on this pathway idea. Point number one here, there's a clear pathway or trajectory to violence for many cases of mass killers. It certainly makes a lot of sense to take this trajectory approach and to not see these crimes as being something where the killer is a perfectly normal person, that something snaps or circumstances change rapidly and you go from a perfectly normal individual to someone who, due to circumstances or something, desperate circumstances, turns to this type of crime. That's not the case at all. These killers have deep-seated problems, psychological problems, which typically go way back. The first step on this pathway is called, according to the author, we're kind of following the author's typology here, or I should say stages, is the collection of grievances, which might be mostly or all imaginary. Okay, I can't stress this enough, and I'll stress it again in this course repeatedly because it's such a key takeaway from this course that if you want to understand mass killers, many mass killers, and a lot of violence of different types, of many different types, ordinary crime, terrorism, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, a lot of violence is motivated by a sense of grievance, a feeling of injustice. The feeling that I've been treated unfairly, I've been exploited, I've been taken advantage of, I've been mistreated, and I need to use violence as a form of payback to equal the score. So it's revenge. Revenge, retaliation is probably the most common motivation for violence. I'm speaking here generally, but it's also the case when we're speaking specifically about these mass killings. Okay, grievance. Just to make sure we're on the same page when we use this term. We're talking here about I want to underline that, perceived offense or slight, meaning that you feel like somebody has offended you somehow. Somebody has wronged you. Somebody has committed an injustice against you. And so the key thing when it comes to mass killers is to understand that the offense is in the eyes of the killer. It's their interpretation of events where they see a slight, an offense, an injustice, where outsiders, other people, don't think that anything has really happened. They think it's minor, or they don't even see a problem at all. A lot of it is in the mind of the killer. The key here is the perception of a slight or offense, an injustice, some sort of wrongdoing. To an outsider, the offense might seem minor or even non-existent. To the killer, it's a major injustice. A lot of times killers think like this: you have ruined my life. It's your fault. You did this horrible thing to me. My life is over. My life is no good, and it's your fault. I didn't deserve that. I'm an innocent person. You came along, did this terrible thing to me, and now I'm really angry because you have committed this injustice against me. An injustice collector, this is a person who's prone to see others as intentionally inflicting harms. So these are personality traits here, or you can think of it as a big personality trait, where it's the person tends to see evil, harmful intentions, malevolent intentions on the part of other people, that other people are trying to get me. Other people are out to get me. They're doing these harmful things to me on purpose. They don't like me. They're doing it for fun. Whatever their reasons, it's unjust, and they're intentionally harming me. whether it could be embarrassing me in front of other people, humiliating me, degrading me in front of other people, making me feel like a loser, making me feel like a reject. They're rejecting me. They won't give me opportunities. They won't give me a job. They won't give me a promotion. They, won't do positive things for me. They won't help me in ways that I deserve help. They reject me. They block me at every turn. They harm me in various ways. And so this person is prone to see that in other people, even when other people aren't doing it, or at least aren't doing anything intentionally. So these are people kind of looking for injustice, looking to other people as being sort of like causing them a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties, because these other people are kind of out to get you. I've got it written a little bit lower where it can get to the point where it's just full-blown paranoia and really a form of mental illness, paranoia, where you're believing that everybody's out to get you. So this injustice collector, this is related to the psychological traits that I have listed here. Cynicism. What I mean by cynicism is the belief that people have bad intentions towards you, that people are sort of naturally bad, and particularly bad towards you. They're out to take advantage of you. They're out to exploit you, deceive you, do bad things to you for whatever reason. And so you tend to see the worst in other people. You assume the worst in other people. That's what we mean by cynicism. Suspiciousness is a similar thing, where you suspect that people are somehow trying to take advantage of you, trying to bring you harm, trying to bring you down, trying to block your way, make things harder for you. They're finding ways to make your life more difficult, or to bring you frustrations or unhappiness, to cause you to fail, right? So it's just kind of, even if you don't 100% believe it, you suspect that this person's up to no good. When very often they may not have any bad intentions at all, but you are reading bad intentions in other people. Other blaming is a key trait, where hey, we know everybody has frustrations, negative things happen to everybody, people make mistakes, people fall short, people have limitations. So we all do that. We all make mistakes, but these individuals are likely to think that anything that goes wrong is not their fault. It's other people's faults. They're innocent. They're blameless. They're better than everybody else. They're above everybody else. If there's a problem, the other person has a problem. I don't. They don't look inside and see any flaws, any weaknesses, any things internally that they need to work on. They blame everything on other people. And this is the trait that you tend to see in criminals in general, are a lot of these same sorts of traits. This other blaming. I'm not responsible for my behavior. If I do something bad, it's because somebody else made me, or I'm just unlucky, or I just fell into trouble. I didn't mean it. It's anybody's responsibility but mine. You see that a lot with criminals. Scapegoating, the same sort of thing, where if something bad happens, you're never going to take any blame, partial responsibility even for it. You're going to blame everything on other people, even if other people are innocent. By scapegoating, the implication there is that you're kind of putting the blame on somebody who is innocent, but you put the blame on them anyway because you're trying to escape blame, responsibility, accountability for yourself. So it's other blaming, and specifically other blaming people who are actually innocent, because that scapegoating, that comes from the old tradition of sort of like taking everybody's sins and putting them on the goat. If you sacrifice the goat, then everybody else's sins will go away, even though the goat's innocent and didn't do anything wrong. Kind of an idea, right? Okay, killers ruminate over these alleged grievances. It is likely to begin in childhood. So again, these are deep-seated, these are developmental. A lot of this has a biological component, brain wiring, the way the brain develops and functions. So a lot of the signs of some psychological problems will manifest themselves early on in life, in childhood. So this is not something that just pops up late in life when the crime occurs. You can look back and see problems along the way. Now, this rumination here, that's a key point I want to stress. What do we mean by ruminate? What we mean by ruminate is you sit around and stew about how all these people are causing you problems and ruining your life. And you sit and you think about it, and you think and you think, and it's just over and repeated. And every time you think about it, you get angry and you get frustrated and you get bitter and you get resentful. So it builds up a lot in your mind because you're sitting around and thinking about it a lot. That's what they mean by rumination. The suspiciousness of extreme can become paranoia, outright paranoia, a psychological condition in which the person has really lost connection with reality. Individuals believe others are out to get them, maybe everybody, maybe society, a very broad sort of group of people, very vague, abstract. Society's out to get me, everybody hates me, wants to bring me down, and they're all plotting against me, right? So when it gets to be that point where it's like conspiratorial, everybody's planning and plotting to bring me down, it can get to the point where it's just complete separation from reality when other people aren't doing anything of the sort to you. The suspiciousness can evoke bad reactions from others that can feed the suspiciousness even more. So if you're always acting nasty and suspicious towards other people, thinking they're out to get you, well, you're just going to make you not like them very much. So you're not going to treat them well. You're going to make accusations. You're not going to speak to them in friendly, nice, positive ways. You think they're out to get you, so you're nasty to them. And what happens when a person is nasty to you? You tend to be nasty back. And so they get into fights with people, arguments with people, because they're making accusations. They think you're up to something. You get offended, and so you start arguing with them and defending yourself and fighting back. And then, see, that just feeds their paranoia, feeds their suspiciousness, because they're like, look, everybody acts like a jerk to me, not realizing that they are provoking other people to argue and to fight back, because you're the one that was acting like a jerk to begin with, and then that set off a chain with other people. So it can be kind of a feedback loop where your cruelty or your mean, nasty, antisocial personality brings out the worst in other people too. Typically, these individuals do not act violently. We're still talking about mass killers here. They do not act violently for a very long time. It's the rumination thing. It's all in the head. It's all in the mind. Typically, these guys are not like common criminals who will act violently when they're children, when they're in school. They'll, the typical trajectory of like a serious street criminal is they show a lot of problems from childhood, like these mass killers do, but in a different way. These street criminals are more likely to show a lot of behavior problems, serious behavior problems when they're very young, and it gets worse in school, and they tend to perform poorly in school. There's a lot of discipline problems. They get in trouble with the teacher and the principal a lot, get kicked out of school, suspended. They're getting into fights. They lie constantly. They steal constantly. They set stuff on fire. I mean, you see a lot of bad behaviors early on. But the key thing that we're stressing here is acting violently, getting into fights, physical fights, and acting violently. These mass killers are usually quiet and fly under the radar. They're much more in their heads and thinking about stuff, but tend to maybe be isolated and stay away from other people and don't really fight with other people. They keep to themselves. So they fly under the radar, and law enforcement, criminal justice system often doesn't know about them at all until they commit their huge mass murder. So this is one of the things that makes it really hard to prevent and stop these crimes, is these guys are quiet until it's too late. So that's a major challenge for people trying to prevent and reduce mass killings. These individuals are often narcissistic. What do we mean by narcissistic? They think they're entitled to recognition and special treatment. They think they're above and better than everybody else. They're superior. They're arrogant. And they become even angrier and more resentful when they don't get the special treatment. They don't get the special recognition when they're left unrecognized, and they don't have friends. They're not admired. They're not popular. They're not well loved. They're isolated and alone, and yet they feel that they deserve every good thing because they're better than other people. They're entitled to things that other people are not entitled to. So they kind of want the special treatment, but they're not getting it because they're tend to not be popular with other people, just the opposite. Grievances are usually grounded in distorted perceptions and thinking errors. So of course a lot of this is distorted thinking because other people are not treating them that badly. Other people are not ruining their lives or causing them to be failures. It's in their heads. They're perceiving it. They're making grand schemes out of nothing. They're imagining stuff. There could be sometimes tiny little kernel of truth to it. Maybe somebody's rude to you, but you blow it up into some huge drama, much more than it deserves, much more than what is real. And so these people they're not seeing reality accurately. At a certain level, even if they don't have a diagnosis of mental illness, there's some mental illness going on there because they have distorted perceptions. They're not in touch with reality at some level when they think that everybody else is, bringing them down when it's actually their behavior that's causing their problems. So it can go from full-blown mental illness to something that's not diagnosed, but kind of maybe a little bit lower level or more subtle level than something like paranoia. But still, we're talking about somebody who's not rational and not seeing things as they are. Now, the author then gives the details in this chapter 3 here. She spends quite a bit of time, which I'm not going to do, to go over these 2 case studies. I would encourage you to go over them carefully because case studies are always a fascinating, very good way to get into the details, the context, the richness of the story of these individuals. But it's time consuming, so I'm going to skip over them. Let me say, though, that one of my goals, one of my plans in this class is to always sort of give my take if it differs from the author's. And so one thing that she is doing throughout the textbook, and I'll repeat myself, I'm sure, on this, is that she's picking very famous high-profile cases that are very sensationalistic and that have some unusual characteristics. So, for example, she picks a Santa Barbara case of a mass killer and then another very famous mass killer in Norway. And she goes over the details of those cases. But you have to keep in mind that those cases are not typical. For example, both of these killers wrote long manifestos, were big writers who were writing dozens of pages and have all this developed ideas about why they're going to commit these crimes. So they're thinking a lot about sort of justifications and why and how they see the world, and they spell it all out in their manifestos. Most mass shooters are not writing mass manifestos. Yes, you see some, some do. Some people, you can go back and see that they've, maybe written some posts on social media or maybe have a notebook and have jotted down some things. Sometimes you see that too, but most of these people are not major writers who are writing a, book-long manifesto. You do see it occasionally, but it's not a general thing. So that's a problem you have to be careful about with these big cases that she likes to focus on, is that in a lot of ways they're not typical. So we got to stress that. And one reason I think why she picks these high-profile cases is there's a lot of information on them. There's been a lot of investigation because they've got a lot of media coverage and sort of investigative journalism done on those. So she's got more detail to work with. A more common case doesn't get as much attention, and so she's not picking. That's probably one reason why she's not picking those. Anyway, so these killers are writing manifestos. They're very ideological. They have developed ideas about what they're doing, why they're doing it. And most killers are have not thought out that carefully in some, like it's a belief system or something like that. Most of these killers are not that sophisticated. So just keep that in mind, that it's not typical that way. Okay, we'll continue on here, and then we're going to move on. This is a short chapter in terms of slides. We'll move on to chapter 4 where we get into pathway 2.